Welcome back. If you aren't already following Naked, please take a minute to do so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Each follow means so much and it actually helps a lot. If you have more than just a minute, it would be absolutely incredible if you could leave a review and maybe even share an episode with a friend. I am relatively new to the pod world, especially new to the things that are important in the podcasting world. And apparently reviews and follows are up there on the list of importance. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Welcome to Naked, where stories unfold. I'm your host, Janelle, a once former pastor's wife who exchanged small town living for a nomadic life. The unexpected change in our life led my husband and our 4 kids to traveling the world. From years of being rooted in our small town to the thrill of wandering the world, our story has been anything but ordinary. On our journeys, we've met amazing people, learned their way of life, and heard their unique stories, which has led me to understand the profound impact of shared experiences. In each episode, we explore moments of transformation, guided by one single question. Is there a time in your life when everything changed? We invite ordinary storytellers like yourself to share the often unexpected turns in life. So grab a seat and settle in. This is the Naked Podcast. One of the many joys of traveling is meeting amazing people along the way. We never really plan too far in advance. We just kind of see where we can get a great deal and then take it from there. Nicaragua was conveniently placed between 2 countries that we were really interested in exploring in, but definitely not one on our must-see or to-do list. In fact, it's the first place we talked about leaving only a few days after we arrived. The bugs were beyond alarming. I'd never seen anything like it, and it felt uncomfortable in a way we had never experienced. Until some miraculous way, it became one of the most amazing places we'd lived. It took about 2 months for this to settle in and for the transition from I want to leave to let's stay to really come. But then it was like every day just got better than the last. The beaches are beautiful, yes, and the fruit and veggies and fish are so fresh and delicious. But what really made it feel like none other was the people. The locals are so warm and welcoming, and the community of nomads collected in this area are like nothing we found in the 6 years of traveling. I will never forget the night we went to the Art Warehouse. It's a cool, artsy cafe that teaches classes and serves great food. But beyond that is the heartbeat of the owner, Ruth. She is all about community. She hosts these art galleries featuring artists of all ages, and it's a great night with live music and a show. My 15-year-old daughter, Kilea, was invited to be one of the artists featured that night. At the time, she was really exploring with watercolor, and she'd painted a beautiful series of women of all sizes and shapes, with gorgeous quotes attached. One of my favorite quotes from this collection she created is, "It's okay if you're not growing the way you expected." She was super excited, but also a little nervous. However, her nerves completely calmed and melted away within a few minutes of the night when a woman with the biggest smile walked up to her. It was clear that she was taken back by Kilea's fully loving, self-accepting women's series. And of course, she bought the first art piece of the night. They chatted, and as they did, I watched the way she lit up the room, and I just knew I needed to meet her. Within a few minutes, her glowing self made her way over, and I will never forget her first words. "Hey, I'm Crazy Aunt Kelsey, and I'm officially adopting all of you." We laughed. We're like, "Oh yeah, totally. We'll take a Crazy Aunt Kelsey. Let's do this." I mean, who doesn't need that? She had just invited us into a community, much of which is lost in the life of traveling, but not in this little town of San Juan del Sur, a small little beach town where eventually everyone will know your name. But that's kind of the magic. So many people from around the world have found this place, everyone looking for community, and she had welcomed us in with open arms. Kelsey has a massive heart, and she gives hugs like no other. My family, we like to call it being calcified. In fact, once you've been calcified, you will never, ever forget it. She is also one of the biggest dreamers, but not a dreamer who is content with her dreams just staying dreams. No. When she feels the magic in something, she is like 100% in, even when the growing pains are so much more than she could have ever expected. Which is why she's a brilliant author of an incredibly empowering children's book called My Friend Breath. You can find it everywhere on Amazon, or just head over to their website at myfriendbreath.com. It's not only a book for littles. I think it's really incredible for teens, parents, and even grandparents. The concepts are super helpful in the everyday life. I can't say more about this book. I absolutely love it. Kelsey's passion and love for life is completely contagious, and I am beyond honored to have Kelsey Corey with us today on Naked. I hope you enjoy this episode. Oh my God, gosh, how are you?
I
It's so
can.
good to see
We're
you.
coming in. I can hear you. Hi, gorgeous soul. I'm
Oh,
feeling
how are
all the
you? You
feels for
look
this time
beautiful,
together.
radiant
It's
as
so
always.
beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, I'm
Thank
so glad you're here. Do you
you.
have a drink? What are you drinking today?
I
A
do. I
drink.
went with cacao.
Do you?
Yep. Let me grab it.
Ooh,
It's a
I
little
do love
hot.
cacao.
Mm. Yep.
Ooh, there's
It's
nothing quite like
the
cacao.
magic of it. It's such a good heart opener. So I'm
Do you put
really, yeah, using it to ground me and connect me for this time.
So when you make it, do you put like your own like spices and stuff in it? Like I've had it quite a few different times where it's had like more cinnamon
Yeah.
flavoring, and so do you kind of make your own mixture?
Yeah. And it's no rhyme or reason. It's like cinnamon, a dash of salt. And I learned like a little dash of black pepper, a dash of paprika or chili powder to really help to open up and expand the goodness. And then I make a
Uh,
base tea of ginger and turmeric. Yeah,
wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Wow, have a little sip for me on that one because I'm drinking hot water and
I
lemon.
shall.
Being in
Yum.
chilly Scotland, it's like I feel like it's the warmer for my soul right now. It's just some lemon and hot water, which is
Mm.
good.
Mm.
Can you hear me okay? How is it sounding on your end?
I can hear you. I feel like there might be a slight delay. Um,
Yeah,
it's yeah, but I think like we'll just flow with it. Am I coming through in a slight delay? How am I on your side?
flow with it. A little bit, yeah. But honestly, the recording that I'm using, it actually doesn't. And if anything that's like blurred out, or if we can't always hear each other, it's going to connect and it's going to pick up all our words, even if we can't always hear everything. So yeah, so we should be good to go. So thank you so much for
Magic,
making a space and time to
magic.
be here, Kels. It means so much as I was thinking about our time. It is magic. It really is. Like the fact that our lives collided, in some funny little place in the world on the by side of the beach is just phenomenal. And I was thinking back about when we all met and like we didn't even really want to go to Nicaragua. I was like, I don't know, is it safe? Like all these questions, but we wanted to like this in between Mexico and Costa Rica, and I was like, well, we need to have this our timeline, so we went there. And then I'll never forget. Like I was just chatting with the kids about it. I was like, remember we met Kels, like Crazy Aunt. I remember you introducing yourself and like, so I'm Crazy Aunt in the town, and I will adopt you, and you'll give me kids. And exactly what happened. It just like you just you just totally took us under your wing. We're like, great, we have an aunt.
Hi, I'm part of the family
Who's
now.
traveling.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome here. And I think that's the thing about traveling is sometimes you can feel really like you miss people and you miss feeling like you have connection and community. And like we were kind of new to the group still. Like we was our
Mhm.
first art event and we were new. And you're just like you're just coming in there. You're just beaming. You bought a piece of art from Ellie or from Kilea, and it was just like right
Yes.
away I saw you talking to her and I was like, oh my gosh, we need to be friends. We need to connect. And then we had Nat. It was amazing. It was just such an
Instant.
amazing
Yeah.
um
Instant
yeah, just
soul
like an easy
connection.
connection, I feel like. And it just felt like it organically just happened and just was.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, soul connection. I was remembering about the night that you invited me over to your place. It's just you and I outside of like the family and all the busyness. And I was telling you a little bit about my life and about
Mhm.
Naked and about this. And you're like, oh, I hope
Yeah.
that like I feel like one day I might be able to share my story. And not knowing that one day we'd be sitting here a few years later and having this space together, even though it's been like lots of time between there, like timing just kind of finds and it just aligns and brings you together for these like really special moments. And I'm so honored to have you here. I count this myself very like yeah, honored isn't even the right word. I think I'm looking for something even deeper and bigger, but I feel a deep privilege about having people here and feel like this is a safe space to share their stories. So saying yes was like is a big deal, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to know where to even start because I feel like there are so many things in life that actually changed. Can be like everything changed, and really resonating with the part of
Yeah.
your story that's like no, this one part I want to share because there's many times when everything changed. So yeah, I feel like before we get into it, why don't you tell the listeners a bit about yourself, who you are, what you're currently doing? You have some amazing work that you're doing that I'm a big fan of, but I won't talk about it. I'll let you do that.
Oh, Janelle, I want to echo first that it is such a joy to get to be here and have this conversation with you, and for everyone who tunes into this. Like, I'm just sending such big hugs. You know, we've had the joy of sharing a hug in person, and you know that I love hugs. They're like, they fill my whole soul, and they're such a special way of connecting, and I love our conversations. And so it's just with such ease and flow to get to come together and share today. And so thank you. To those of you meeting me for the first time, my name is Kelsey Corey, and I frame what I do as emotional fitness coaching, and it is a really, really special thing. In my life, I never could have imagined I'd end up here. I was an IT project manager for years in Australia, and this is actually my 10th year that I've been living outside of Australia. And I too, Janelle, was never thinking that I would end up down in Nicaragua. But lo and behold, I've been here for 2.5 years now, and it's really been such a place that has held me and given me immense grounding and spaciousness and community and connection, and given me the opportunity to redefine who I am and come into like almost like a rebirth. I feel like I've grown so much here over this time, and getting to do it alongside the incredible project that has consumed my life over the last few years, my beautiful book baby, my friend Breath, which we can do a little.
Yes,
This beautiful being
so much.
is, yeah, it's been such a journey bringing this to life. And as someone who is not a mother of a physical human child, you know, Ash, our main character, is representative of my own inner child, and really like the joy of getting to bring to life and share the resources and the tools and the knowledge that I didn't have when I was a child, that wasn't available to my parents when we were younger, and that I get to now share with my nibblings. Janelle, let me educate everybody on the word nibblings. Nibblings is the term you use for nieces and nephews as a collective, and it's my favorite word in the world. Because I'm so blessed to have 2 nieces and 2 nephews back home in Australia that are just such sweethearts, and I look forward to getting to meet them in person later this year. That will be our first time getting to meet in person. And yeah, and I've got, you know, this book has been out in the world for over a year now. Cacao stuck in my throat. And it is, it's transformed me. It's transforming other people's lives. Like we get so much incredible feedback, and it's such a joy to be using my energy for impact in this way. Like, as I said, I never could have imagined that this is how my life would unfold, and this is where I'd end up and what I'd be doing. And yet when I look back, and Steve Jobs says, you know, you won't be able to connect the dots going forward, but you always can when you're looking back, and you kind of see the path and how everything that's happened in your life unfolded in the way it was meant to, such that you are who you are today. And as I was doing my alignment practice this morning and journaling and doing some tapping and grounding myself in preparation for this time and for this conversation, I really I was like, I am grateful for every single experience that I've had, for every moment that has led me to here and now. It's you know, the highs and the lows of it. It's been a roller coaster ride. It's been a lot of emotions, and it's been beautiful, and it's been divine, and it's been exactly what it's needed to be. So yeah, it's with that fullness in my heart, and with the joy of what I'm doing with my friend Breath, and what I'm doing with Energy for Impact, and who and how I get to be in this world as a human being, and with deep, deep gratitude and reverence for getting to do it all. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, I love that, Kelsey. You have such a good way of saying things. And to go back to your book, I mean, it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever had the privilege of reading, and sitting down with the kids, and even going through some things with my own kids, and journeys of like things that they're going through. And there is something powerful about our breath. And I think that's something I didn't grow up learning either. how to regulate and how to like bring yourself back down. And even just like some of the things that you do in the book where it's like tracing your, the breath in and out. And there's just, it just is such a, like an easy way for kids to understand, but it's also for the adults. Like, I feel like I took so much from the book too, being like, oh yeah, okay. Like, yes, I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of times in our kids' books, like we don't realize we're picking up, but this is a real teaching guide, I feel like, for parents in their own lives, as well as teaching their
Mhm.
kids. And it's something that's, it's
Yeah.
beautiful, been so beautiful to see it become something. I remember sitting on your couch that one night and you're like, I have this thing I'm working on. And you just showed us like some of the pictures and stuff that were at the beginning and your ideas. And now like it's here and it's in schools and it's affecting kids. And it's like, it's just become something like so beyond you. And it's amazing to be a part of it. And then I think you said you're working on your second book. And I'm like, Kels, it's just amazing. Like you said, Nicaragua makes you grow. And I've talked about this with my kids. There's no
Yeah.
other way. You can't be that uncomfortable with so many things, like all the luxuries we have in our normal, typical lives that we live in Canada, or even from where you're from and home. It's different, like the bugs and the heat, and like there's just so much that it. I remember someone saying Nicaragua will either a hater or you're a lover, but there's no in between. You're not
Yeah.
like, I kind of like Nicaragua. It's kind of like it's one or the other. She'll spit you up or she'll hold
Yeah.
you tight. Like it's just one or the other. And I feel like if you let her, there is the rawness of Nicaragua, the beauty and the rawness of her has a way of like pulling away the things that maybe you don't even realize are there that hold you away from
Mm.
growth. And Mikhail and I were just talking about it yesterday, my son,
Mm.
but like how much growth happened in that season. And sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable, but I think growing pains, you feel that it's not always like this most joyous experience. And I think seeing you, even like, what was it, year and a half or 2 years ago that we met, and like all of this happening and it becoming something, just a dream that became something. And it's the stillness that Nicaragua has, is like this blank plate. It's like, what are we going to do today? Like it's not busy. And so you have the space of, I feel like
Yeah.
the the dream can flourish without the clutter. It's like you have space for it
Mm.
to kind of find you maybe quicker than you would if you were just rapidly moving through life. And I'm just so
Mhm.
proud of you and so inspired by you and what you've created with your mom. I love that it's a project that you and your mom have done together. Also, I think that's so
I
like
know.
special that you guys hold that. And just like the whole thing, her being a kindergarten teacher, I think, right? Knowing
Yeah.
little kids and how it can be, and the power of like just bringing it down, like here we are, just your breath, your friend
Yeah.
is breath, and they're like, that's so special and powerful. It's something you have everywhere you go. So I could talk about the book for all day. I absolutely love it, and I've bought it for my nephews, and I'm just like, I tell people about it, I'm like, it needs to be in schools, we need to get it out there. So amazing work you're doing, and I'm really, really,
Thank
yeah,
you.
proud of you, and glad we got to be like, watch the whole thing kind of bloom. It's pretty beautiful.
Right? You got to see the whole process of, like, I think back to when this was simply an idea. And it was an idea that was planted into my mum's mind as she was driving home from the hospital, having just met my first niece and her first granddaughter, and was like, what can I do that can possibly be an example of the immense love that I'm feeling right now? And My Friend Breath arrived as an idea. My mum literally just last year retired from a 41-year teaching career, and she has witnessed a lot of change through kids in
Wow.
time, and recognizing and realizing the different tools and the different knowledge that she's accumulated in the mindfulness space, and the way that there has been a gap in that being integrated, and even just the simplicity
Mm.
of being able to teach it in a way that is actually absorbable. Like, there's a lot of content, a lot of things out there that, it
Yeah.
doesn't sink in the same way as, your breath is your friend, and it's there. We've got a saying in the book: when I change the way I'm breathing, I change the way I'm feeling. And that's an affirmation that is repeated, and a confirmation and a reminder. And just as you say, like, this is as impactful and important for kids as it is for adults. We weren't taught this when we were kids. We are
Yeah.
still kids on the inside. We may present
Yeah. Yeah.
otherwise. We're still, our nervous system still need to understand what they can do to support themselves, to regulate and to calm themselves. And so thank you for referencing just how much it has been helpful really at any age to embrace and understand that it can be as simple as coming back to your breath and grounding through that as a mechanism and as a way to help yourself, because the empowerment piece is really important to me. Like, it's just the ability to do it for yourself and not have to rely on others and not look externally for the support, but to know that you can do it to help you. Like, oof, that is one of the threads through what I do with Energy for Impact and what I do with My Friend Breath. Is the empowerment piece is really, really important. Yeah.
I was just going to say that it's super empowering because it's a tool that you didn't know you had, that you've always possessed. And to instill kids so little with that, like from even like 1 and 2, like when they're just starting to learn, this how to do life and feel their frustration, and like these things aren't wrong, but how do we help them through them? And I think it's a beautiful tool for parents to start little, but also something to like bring to your teens world. It's
It's a natural
powerful,
and
and
normal
it
thing to
gives people
experience
something
emotion.
to hold on to that they can take anywhere with them. So I am a big fan, as you can tell.
I love it.
But as we can, no, yeah, I am. So as we continue, I would love to hear where you want to start. I always, as you know, I always start with a question. Was there a time in your life when everything changed? And like I prefanced earlier, like there are many times in our lives that there's like, felt like it all started to begin again, something new because of a certain circumstance changed things. So I'm excited to see where today takes us, and what you're feeling kind of coming up in you as far as where you want to take everybody else in a time where everything changed in your life.
Where are we going with that? It feels like such a simple question, and then when you actually allow it to like sink in and you sit with it, and you mentioned this, like you recognize that there are many moments in your life. And I've, ever since high school, my favorite poem has been The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. And it talks about you're at a path and you're at a fork in the road and you get to choose. Are you going to go this way or are you going to go that way? And there's also a movie with Gwyneth Paltrow called Sliding Doors. So those two concepts,
I know it.
if you're familiar with the movie, like something happens and something doesn't happen, and it follows that character on two different timelines based on it happening or not happening. And I've had many sliding door moments, the road not taken moments in my life of like how things have changed, whether it's been a chosen change, something that I have intentionally stepped forward into, or whether it's been a change that has appeared in my life, perhaps unexpectedly. And as I sat with your invitation to have a conversation about this, about a time that's changed in my life, the first ideas that came in were kind of times that were impactful and created great change in my adult years. And as I was like standing doing the dishes, running water is such a beautiful conduit for my thoughts, and like I really get into flow. Like shower thoughts is a common thing as well. And I heard this voice inside of me say, the time that is more important to talk about is the time in my childhood when everything changed. And so I'm going to invite you to listen in and like even just picture 12-year-old Kelsey. She didn't look much different to current Kelsey. 12-year-old Kelsey, she is in Australia. We have primary school finishes in grade 6, and then we go into high school 7 to 12. And so I was on the brink of a change. I just finished primary school. I was the school captain for the school in my final year in grade 6. Like I've very naturally always, taken a leadership role and fallen into that. At the time I was doing gymnastics, and that just was my whole world. And I was a very proud and determined and dedicated gymnast. And so I lived in a town in Australia called Broken Hill. It's where I was born and raised. I'm with my mom, my dad, and my 2 younger sisters. And like, that's my life. And it's it's fantastic and I'm loving it. And I'm, both excited and nervous about this next expansion into high school and what's going to happen, different friends, different things. So already in the midst of some change in my life. And I'm going to start tapping as I as I then go into the and then part of the story. And just a quick context as to tapping for anyone who's new to it, listening to this, doesn't understand what I mean, what I'm doing. EFT tapping is a modality that you can use. It's like acupuncture, but it's acupressure. You're tapping on certain meridian points on your body, and that sends signals to your nervous system that it is safe, it is calm, it's okay. It really helps to moderate and manage the emotional energy moving through you, because your emotions are energy in motion. And especially when emotions become heightened and they expand and the fullness within them can threaten to overwhelm your system and your ability to stay online and connected and rational and communicating from a really grounded place, like tapping is an incredible tool to support you. And so I'm just going to tap through my points as I come back to the story and I tune into, like, I'm inviting myself to connect energetically with 12-year-old Kelsey. Like, we spend a lot of time in my journal and in my tapping in preparation for this to really come into a place of groundedness to share her story, right? Because this is current adult Kelsey sharing the story on behalf of my younger self. And we were invited into, my parents called us into their bedroom. My sisters and I are standing there, and like in my mind's eye, I'm in that scene at this time. And they shared with us their intention to separate, that they would be getting a divorce, that things would be changing. And that was such a monumental moment for me as a 12-year-old whose whole concept of life up until that point was very grounded in a solid family dynamic, who loves and loved it and loves both of her parents deeply and immensely, and from whom she was coming to understand how the world works, right? Like, we learn through the role models, through the experiences that we have, and then all of a sudden, like, I can, the feelings are what I remember. That's what, from these experiences, it's the feeling that gets trapped in your body. And it was like the floor disappeared from out of me and my gut sank, and I just was like, the shock hit me. And I was standing there just, what does this mean? Like, what? And the beauty and the power of, as current Kelsey, being able to connect with that time and reflect on that time and acknowledge the impact of that on my life. I'm only able to be here and have this conversation with you now because of the journey that I've had in coming to learn how to relate to myself, how to develop a connection with my parts. One of the things that we do a lot of in EFT tapping is parts work. And if you're not familiar with parts work, but perhaps you've seen the movie Inside Out, and she's got the different emotions inside of her. Like, that's a great way to think about the different parts of you, right? Parts of you have different experiences, they feel different ways, they have different tendencies. And so you're never necessarily all one thing. You're multiple experiences of emotion and thought and concept and belief all at once on the inside. And it's been such a journey, that's not, as we were touching base with the book, it's not something that we're taught in our younger years to nurture that connection with ourselves and to be able to support ourselves, especially through really big experiences like this that bring up a lot of emotion and a lot of new emotion. I remember, like, and I can connect in with the wow, these are new feelings. I don't understand. I can't comprehend what this means. What is this? What does this moment mean? And so, like, I'll take a pause there because there's a lot, and I'm very excited and grateful to get to reflect on this, because it's, that was the moment when everything changed, and how my life has evolved from there in like a full moment, a full circle experience is really quite divine, and I'm grateful to get to explore it with you. And so, yeah, just where does that sit for you? Any thoughts, comments, questions? I'll take a sip of cacao.
Wow. Yeah. I love the way you said that. And I've like all these things sitting in my mind, like what is 12-year-old Kelsey feeling? And I think that um, I imagine there's many emotions and things that come in that moment. Um, of like you said, I think you said it so well, like the floor just fell out beneath you. And it was just like, okay, now what? What does this mean? All I know is my family to be a family of, I think it was your sisters and yourself and your parents. And it's like, now what does that look like? I'm about to do this big thing and go to new school, and I'm like learning all these new things. And it's also a really big time in your life where, as a girl, your body is changing and all these things are happening and hormones everywhere.
Yep.
And so there's all of that you're dealing with amongst like, okay, what does this mean now for us? Like, what is the next step? And if you feel comfortable with going back to 12-year-old Kels, and how did you go from, how did you like take that and move into the next, as you went to the next day, the next month, the next year? What was that process like for you?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for checking in and asking her. And like right now in this moment, 12-year-old Kelsey is very grateful to get to share this, because, I'm proud of where I've come from this. Like, so much of my own doing the work, doing the inner work as an adult, and having sessions where I'm the client, a practitioner's supporting me, I'm tapping in and tuning in and bringing something from my current day life that is challenging me, and that I'm having trouble showing up in a way that feels good around. And the number of times, Janelle, that the reason and the kind of the core of that is actually linked back to this experience when my parents separated, what I came to understand and decide about the world and who I was and how the world worked and the dynamics of everything in those moments. Like, it's been really monumental to be able to continually be coming back and supporting 12-year-old Kelsey to release what she absorbed at that time, what became alive within her, and helping her in the ways that she didn't have at the time, in the support mechanisms. Because one of the greatest learnings that I've had through my EFT journey is around trauma. And, trauma is a very big topic. It's very broad, it's very deep, and there's a lot there. And there's even, I believe, a lot that we don't fully understand about it and how it works in our mind and in our bodies. And what I have learned, one of the concepts connected to trauma around like big T trauma and little t trauma. And so trauma that is like literally life threatening, and then trauma that is very, very challenging and isolating. And there's actually a framework called the UDIN framework. It's UDIN. The U stands for unexpected. So something is traumatic when it happens to you unexpectedly and you're not prepared for it, and it just like catches you off guard. The D is that it's dramatic, is that it evokes a large emotional response and reaction even within you. And as I shared, like a lot of those emotions for 12-year-old Kelsey were new emotions. She didn't know what to do with that energy. What is this? What do I do with this? And then the I is the isolating factor. And particularly, I feel that this is one of the things that is challenging in our world today, is that a lot of us feel very isolated in our emotional experiences, because emotions isn't something that is readily and easily talked about and accepted and honored. Like in our society, we feel isolated in our emotional experiences, and we don't have the support. And then the N in the framework is no resources, no strategy, no plan, and no real knowledge of how to take that experience and release the energetic and emotional charge that's come up from it to help to help process it, and even where to go from there, and what is the thing that's just happened to you, how is that going to be changing your life and impacting your life. And so, to all of that in the context to my answer of, 12-year-old Kelsey did the best she could at that time. And she, we are hardwired to survive. And so I've connected back in. I spent a lot of time crying on my own. In some of my own sessions, I've gone back to, in my mind's eye, we do a lot of visualization work with inner child healing, and I like picture myself becoming Big Spoon to her on her bed and just holding her, because tears were the way that she was using to help release and to process, and she felt so alone in the experience, because as the eldest daughter, there was like this expectation on me, or that's my interpretation of it. That's how I felt that I was expected to keep it together, to be accepting, to be this support role to my mum as we processed. Like, we moved out of the family home. We created a whole new life. The structure of how I interacted with my dad, my sisters and I lived predominantly with my mum. Like, everything shifted and the relationship dynamics changed. And I attribute a lot of my resilience to that time. And so a really important piece of this is to acknowledge that, yes, there was a lot of emotional challenge that came out of it. And it also was a catalyst for so much of my growth and so much of my character development as well. And so it's been, it's quite beautiful to get to honor both and all aspects of it. 12-year-old Kelsey was also very angry. She was very angry, and there wasn't a place where she could take that anger. And so that anger was kept inside of me. And in a number of my sessions and in my processing and in doing my work, like I in healthy ways acknowledged and released that anger. And underneath that anger were the layers of sadness. And so helping to shift all of that energy out of my body and through me has allowed me to come into, as an adult, a really deep place of compassion and acceptance and respect for my parents, who navigated that experience the best that they could at the time with who they were and the knowledge that they had available. Like, I'm talking in the like late 90s, about to go into the 2000s. It was also Y2K in this, right? There was the stress of what's going to happen when the world ends going into the 2000s. Like, there was a lot going on. And that wasn't a time when we were talking about mindfulness, when there was awareness around trauma and there was awareness around nervous system, emotional regulation. Like, that was not a thing. The internet was not as big a thing as it is now. Having access to the resources, to the support systems. So, not only was I going through trauma, my parents were going through trauma, my younger sisters, like it impacted each of us in our own unique way. And it feels like I am so deeply grateful that in my own journey of coming to like understand and reflect on and connect with all of this, and really help 12-year-old Kelsey come to a place of grounded, loving acceptance and connection for this, and gratitude, that it has also really strengthened and deepened my relationship with my parents. I've had really great conversations with each of them, and I've had great conversations with my sisters around it too. Both of them are parents, as I indicated, my nibblings, and it's it's informed me in many ways as to who and how I am and how I'm showing up in the here and now. And one last thing I'll say, and then I'll kind of pass the mic so we can banter on this, is that a powerful aspect of it for me, and it's not only this experience from my childhood that I have processed and created connection and realized that there is connection back to from my current day challenges to how and where I learned those. You know, these are tendencies like my people pleasing and my perfectionism and my high achiever, right? My high achiever is very much connected to when I was a gymnast and all I was striving to do there. And you know, there are many good aspects of these tendencies and these ways that I am being. And there are aspects of it that I've outgrown that no longer really work for who I am today and for the world that I live in today. And that's the beautiful bridge that in each session, in the processing of it, I get to kind of build that bridge and help that younger part of me, like, thank them and, you know, applaud them for who and how they needed to be and what they did to survive and do the best they could at that time, and show them just how far I've come and how much I've grown and what's changed in my world today, such that I'm needing to release and let go and no longer hold on to what they were holding, so that I can expand further and grow more and take forward steps in the here and now. So yeah, it's quite the journey.
It is quite the journey. I love your awareness around it, because I think exactly what you said. We were younger. We didn't have the internet to figure stuff out, to find support groups. Like, if it wasn't in your town, it didn't really exist, you know. And if it wasn't in your space of people that you're in, there wasn't, like, it can feel, I think when we go through trauma, it can feel like the light is snuffed out in the room and you're left sitting in a dark room because you feel so alone. And the fear of being honest about how you're feeling, the fear of being honest about what you're processing and what's going on in your head, you don't really want to say those things out loud because you don't know if you're the only one thinking them or feeling them. So then you sit in this dark world, and that can become all consuming, which can really take over and can turn into other ways of manifesting itself in different ways in our bodies or actions or things that we do and how we treat ourselves. So I think it's really, and I think from my own experience too, I've revisited my younger self many times and things that I've gone through, but I think it's sometimes it feels like it maybe feels easier to not revisit that, to not, in a lot of ways. And so it becomes this like a bit of a shadow back here that you just don't look at. You know, you can feel it, and you know that every room you enter, that younger you is also there too. I heard somebody once say, you know, when you go into a conversation with people, it's not the people in the room that you're only with, it's who they also brought with them, like their past self that's in the room too, that you're also to be aware of, and what's going on in that space and how they respond or don't respond to the circumstances. It's not always because of the current person they are, it's because of what came with them from before. So I love the journey you've been on, and you're like, no, I identify with what this is, and I found ways to help me. And now seeing it as this thing in your life, it actually is the thing that was the catapult to bring you to who you are today. I mean, had younger Kelsey not gone through what she went through at 12, would you enter the world of understanding about trauma and learning about tapping? Would that be something that you would even be open to? Or is that the thing that was the opener? It's like, no, there's something here that I need to kind of go into. And I'd love to know a little bit more about like what was your journey to finding this healing, this way of like tapping into your younger self, literally, you know, and the things that you've learned about trauma. What was the thing that guided you in there? Because you were 13, so I imagine there's a span of time in between there that you found your way, and maybe you didn't even discover much about what was there until you were in the space of like learning.
No, exactly. It really took, I mean, there's so much that you've just shared that I'm going to touch on it. One aspect first about the shadow self is that one way to kind of identify if we do have parts of us and aspects of us and things that we are ignoring and denying, because so much of this happens on the subconscious level. We aren't really, like, it's not necessarily something we're consciously choosing, like it's just happening, is when you start to observe that there are patterns happening in your life, whether that's patterns of behavior or patterns of experience or outcomes that are repeated, the kind of relationships that you're having or that you're connecting to, like when you recognize and realize that, that's often a sign that there is something that you're ignoring and you're not like there is an opportunity to connect with and unearth and discover and create, you know, more alignment and to welcome back in. We often talk about like the parts of us that have become disconnected, and then it's like a reunion, it's a reconnecting to them so that you can come into alignment to go forward from where you are. So I wanted to offer that as like you're so right in that often we can have these shadow parts and sometimes it's scary to come to them. Like our relationship with our emotions is not something that is encouraged or nurtured or taught. Like we come to fear our emotions. There's a lot of shame around having emotions. There's a lot of shame around experiencing the guilt and the anger and the frustration and the fear, and like it means that you're less than for having those experiences, but you're a human and they're part of the human experience, and it's so natural and normal, and that's it's exactly why, like, I love that all of my past experiences have truly led me to be who I am today, and the joy of getting to speak to this and to illuminate it and to normalize it and make it something that, you know, I have a vision, Janelle, of walking down a street and seeing somebody tapping and it being a typical thing that you would do because you're taking care of your nervous system and you recognize and realize that that's your responsibility. You're the only one that can do that for you, right? You're the only one that's having the full internal experience that you're having and knows what's going on inside of you. So you're the one that can be empowered when you have the knowledge, when you get, when you learn the skills, like, and then practice the application of them so that you train it to become a second nature thing. Like, I tap now, just like, you know, scratch my nose or something. Like, it's tapping for me has just become such a part of my life. And so I do talk about like pre-tapping Kelsey and tapping Kelsey because we're two very different people. And it's like, it's fun. And it's really only been over the last 5 to 6 years that tapping has been part of my life. So, you know, I'm definitely not 12 anymore. I'm also older than 18. So it's been, there was a large period of my life where I didn't have tapping as a tool to help me process my emotions. And ever since I was a child, like, I've been an empath. I've been a big feeler. I absorb the energy of those around me. I consider it a gift. I consider it a superpower. And of course, it also comes with its own challenges. And so it wasn't actually until my adult years, in my mid-20s, I had moved to Canada. I was living and working in Canada, and I had an experience where I was in a meeting with the bosses that I worked for, and I was advocating on behalf of the team for a change that we were wanting to implement. It was a change. There was like, it required some adjustments within the way that we were structuring and doing things, and yet I went in to represent the team, and I thought it was going to be welcomed. And then I was getting resistance and pushback. And that evoked within me this like surge and this well of emotion. And I became so choked up that I couldn't speak properly. And I later learned that there's a word for that. It's you become verklempt. And it's you just, and I was overwhelmed by my emotion. I actually had to end the meeting because I couldn't continue communicating in the way that we're communicating here. I became dysregulated. And again, learning about the nervous system, when I do get to tapping, like, we come to understand there's a concept of the window of tolerance. That when you're inside of the window, you're able to hold the tension and the intensity of the energy within you and still respond in a way that is connected, that is you're online, your conscious mind is online, And then when you go into dysregulation, you go outside of that window and you're offline. Dr. Dan Siegel calls it flipping your lid, where your reptilian brain, your emotional mammalian brain, and your neocortex, your conscious mind, when we're regulated, we're connected. When we're dysregulated, we're disconnected, and rational thought is not available to you. That's when you say and do things you're not proud of. That's where you become verklempt when you're trying to talk about something. And that was a moment when everything changed for me, that I realized like something's got to give. I need some help with managing this, because I'm not proud to show up this way. I need to feel that I can be the kind of leader I know I'm capable of being, but I need some help with that. And so that really was like the catalyst moment in my older years that led me to the path of mindfulness, of exploring things like meditation, like journaling, like breath work. And then my amazing mother, through her own experiences, discovered EFT, and she suggested it to me. And she found that there was a training in Toronto that I could go to. And she said, Kels, I'm signing you up. I'd love for you to go. I really, really trust that this is something that will be great for you. I was very busy in life and I didn't get quite as much time to do the pre-work as I should have. And I showed up to that training, Janelle, and I walked into that room and all these people are doing this. And I'm like, what? Where am I? What are they doing? Why are they tapping on their face and body? This is weird. This is kind of kooky. I don't know if I trust this. What's going on? And it was, this was pre-tapping Kelsey.
Yes.
And it was a weekend training, and literally by the end of the training, who was sitting front and center, happily tapping, going, oh my goodness, this has changed my life. I knew after a 3-day training that this was something that I would be doing for the rest of my life. I knew it was something that would not only support me, but that I was eager and excited to learn how to use to support other people. It is something that we are integrating, teaching in our second book of My Firm Breath. Like tapping is it's another one of these empowering tools that is literally at your fingertips, available to you anytime, anywhere, to support you. There is so much scientific research that has been done, is being done into this modality. One of the leading researchers, Peter Stapleton, is an Aussie, shout out. She's down in Brisbane and she's doing incredible work. It helps a full range of challenges and experiences, and like people use it for PTSD, they use it for insomnia, they use it for weight loss, they use it for phobias, they use it for addictions, they use it for stress management. Professional sports people use it for high performance. Like it is so incredible. And as you can tell, you can feel it within me. I am passionate about this. And it's something that can be integrated into your day-to-day life. It's you can use it in small ways, you can use it in deep dive sessions to help unpack. You can put words with it, you can do it just tapping and breathing without words. Like there's so much diversity, it's so adaptable, and linking it back, like it really does feel like this full circle moment for me to be coming to this place where I now create resources and I now share information about these tools.
Right.
That is what 12-year-old Kelsey needed. That is what my sisters needed. That is what my parents needed. Like, I'd love to share this because this is like the epitome of the full circle moment. So a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, we've been friends for over 20 years, and she has recently navigated a separation from her husband. And she has 2 young daughters, and they are absolute superstars. They're just amazing. And she, when we finally got the chance to catch up about this, she said to me, Kels, it's hard for me to put into words just how much your book has helped my kids and helped them to navigate what we're navigating. So much so that her eldest who I think is like maybe 9 or 10, maybe 10, so around that. Her eldest was inspired to create her own emotions book and draw pictures and label the different feelings that she's been having in relationship to her parents' separation.
Wow.
And we were both in tears when we were talking about this because it was just such, like, when we come back to the Uden framework of trauma,
Hmm.
if just one of those things is supported, if there is support offered at the time, like, I actually want to read a quote here by Peter A. Levine. Trauma is not what happens to us, but what we hold inside in the absence of empathetic witness.
Hmm.
And so recognizing and realizing that this beautiful being that I helped bring to life, and I mean, this was a hugely team effort, an incredible team effort, but that this resource provided the empathetic witness, the ability even for that child to then witness their own emotions and express those in a way, and then have that opportunity for her parents to witness her in that and acknowledge and validate all of her feelings, to know that that provides the opportunity for, instead of it becoming stuck and stored and the issues in her tissues that
Yeah.
will manifest and evolve over her adult into her adult life and impact her then, for her to have had the opportunity in the experience and in the processing of the experience to help shift it is like, it's one of those things that you can't put words to it fully because it's a felt, like, just joy and gratitude and disbelief and awe, and like, it's the magic of this. It's the taking the experience that I had and how it's really become that full circle celebration of being human and embracing and understanding how to be human and how to support ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
supporting and teaching each other along the journey.
Wow. Kels, that is powerful. That is amazing. I mean, for her to have
Yeah.
that book, but then also go inside herself and create one of her own. I think that's a hard thing when you're going through trauma or going through devastation of some sort. It's hard to really pinpoint what you're feeling to give it a voice. And I think, like you said, like, it just issues in your tissues. I love that. It's just like it does sit here. It doesn't just leave because you didn't go through it. It's here. It's
No.
in you. And you've really let
Mm-hmm.
this, taken what happened as a child, what could have been something that could have manifested in so many different ways in your life and your body and these things, and you've really taken the time to just dive in and learn about it and not be afraid of, like, going to the hard places and visiting 12-year-old Kelsey and crying with her and being like, girl, I got you. Like, you were never alone, and I got you, and we're going to get through this. And not only are we going to get through this, but we're going to learn, and we're going to take that and let somebody else who's going through the same thing. Honestly, I'm sitting here like, this is what this podcast is all about. This is what being here, this is what Naked, this is where it came from, was that stories could be shared so that somebody else would know that they're not alone. And like, in you creating My Friend Breath, you've created this space for this little girl to identify what's going on inside of her in a way that she would have never experienced without it. And to actually put it into something that she could see. This is why we're
Yep.
here. This is, I think, why we do life. The hardest thing about our journeys is when we feel so isolated. It's like you tapped on earlier about the isolation and how that creates this space where we feel like we're on our own island, and it can chew us up and it can eat us up
Mm-hmm.
and it can destroy us. Or it can be this thing that we share. That's why we're here, is to share the story, and so other people can
Yeah.
hold us and say, like, you're not alone in this. Like, I got you. And you're going to make it through because I made it through. And there's
Yes.
light. There's light at the end of
Yes.
this really dark tunnel. I think
Yeah.
it's just so powerful what you've created and what you've allowed yourself to navigate, that a lot of us would skirt against, or, be in the fast lane and not actually sit in and go like, no, there's something bigger that's happening here, and I need to sit with it to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm tapping, and you're sitting in a place like, this is weird. Like, I don't know if I belong here. Like, what are these people doing tapping their faces? But like leaning in beyond that, finding, I heard one of my friends say on one of the other podcasts, you're not responsible for your pain, but you are responsible for your healing. Something like that. And I just think that is the thing, is like, we have to do the work to find the health that we need.
Yeah.
And there are many people that are going to listen to this that are sitting in your same spot who have maybe haven't navigated back with 12-year-old them or 10-year-old them. Because it hurts, or somebody's maybe sitting in it right now and going like, I don't know where to put all these feelings. And the thing is none of the feelings are wrong. And it's not to be something that lays shame on it or lays all this darkness on it, but no, it's okay to know that, what you're feeling is normal. You're going to have all those things go off in your head. Like, I remember watching Inside Out, and like everyone's flipping the switches at the same time, and you're just like, I feel everything at this exact same time, and like, what do I do with
all
this?
The time.
It's like, no, all of it. And then you're like, I feel like the sense of panic or urge, or we distract, we find some reason to distract us from that thing. But it's like, no, to sit in that, and then to know that there's resources, there's things to help you, whether it be journaling or tapping or different things you can find that, help you through your journey to not be somebody who lets the shadows sit right here the whole time. But then I was talking to one of my kids about this the other day. I was like, when you go through hard things, it's not like there's this idea sometimes that we're hoping that the 11-year-old Kelsey is going to come back. That 11-year-old Kelsey is going to just turn up at 13, and this whole 12-year-old thing is just going to it's going to evaporate and go away. We just want her to come back. And I remember feeling this when I went through my mental breakdown, this urge of people being like, are you going to come back to be yourself? And I was like, I don't actually know. And that was like a really scary thing. And I think what I realized now through all of my life is that it's not about returning to who I was. It's about the rebirth that comes through that. I think of it like it's the blooming,
Yeah.
And we bloom different. And now the colors in our flower, it might not just be pink. It might have blue in it now, and it might have green in it now, and it might have yellow. And that's the beauty of us growing and evolving, becoming who we are. It's about embracing these different parts that we're feeling really uncomfortable and maybe felt like we weren't going to get through them. And then we did, and we bloomed, and this new part of us has emerged. It's not about going back and becoming who we once were, but it's about evolving to who we become. And I think that's what you've done so beautifully with like going through your journey and discovering, like, finding the resources to help you, but then taking it a step further. And I don't know, we haven't sat with it enough to talk about, like, for me to fully understand, but I wonder if in making and writing and creating and doing all the process of making this beautiful piece of work that you've created for all of us to enjoy and learn from, was there a part where you're like, oh my gosh, I thought it was about this, and this is so much bigger than I ever thought. Like, there are things I'm learning about myself that I never even imagined through this children's book. I feel like that's the purpose of the journey, is like, oh, there's this idea, but you have no idea what's going to happen.
Oh, Janelle, you have nailed it there. My mum and I have said multiple times to each other, we're like, if we'd actually known what we were signing up for and like what this would take and how much it would require of us to really draw from our own resources and our own commitment to facing the challenges and the growth, like, on the emotional level and also on the, well, I guess it's still the emotional level, the identity level of expanding into like, I'm an author. I'm the director of an incorporated company, because writing a book is starting a business. That's a whole other conversation we could have about the professional side of the growth and the expansion that's happened with this. And one thing that feels very relevant to your question in this moment is the day that I realized that Ash, our beautiful Ash, is that reflection of my inner child, and is like that I was invited into this project by my mum for the purposes of deepening my inner child healing. Like, that just was, it was not, we weren't at that depth until the moment we were at that depth and making that connection. And like, I cried because I not becoming a mother of human children in this lifetime and realizing that after I leave, that this book and the subsequent books and resources will continue to be in this world and continue to get to nurture and care. Like, this is how I'm fulfilling my motherly energy, and my role as a mother, as that is coming through with what I'm doing here. And it's it's incredibly special. It's just like, um, it's such a gift. It's such a gift that to give to myself, and then to be able to have that impact on the world. And because, like, this whole journey really has allowed me to grow and to evolve into, I realize that because of the experiences I've had, I am able to be the person I am today and provide the space holding. Like, to link back to your comment about how it can be overwhelming to have all this emotion and not know how to be with it. We haven't been trained to be with it, so we do distract ourselves, we do deflect, we do suppress, we do ignore, we do pretend it's not there. But what you resist will persist, and it often gets bigger and bigger and louder and louder. And a lot of our dis-ease in our mind and bodies these days is unprocessed and unacknowledged emotion. And so the opportunity to hold the space and to provide the support for people to learn how to process their emotion. And I think there's so much to be said in that it's not an easy thing to do on your own. It is really amazing to be in a container and in a space where you feel that you can be held and that you can be brave to show up and face those feelings and acknowledge them. Like, the power of acknowledgement has really is something that I've learned, that the impact of, like, you literally just say, like, this is how I'm feeling, and that part of you goes, thank you, thank you for acknowledging this is my truth, right? And then the next layer is accepting that that's how you're feeling, because we have all those judgments about how we should be. We should on ourselves a lot. And oftentimes it's completely it's completely, like, irrelevant. There's no shoulds. That's all just this construct that has been forced upon us. So really, when you start to come to a place of curiosity and intention around exploring how you do truly feel, what it is that you have experienced that has helped shape who you are today, when you start to notice the patterns in your life about who and how you're being, and where, there's a disconnect between being that way and it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel right because it's not who you actually want to be. For example, my time in that meeting. Another, light bulb moment on this journey for me was reading a book called The Upside of Stress by Dr. Kelly McGonigal. And she, in that book, shares, we get stressed because we care. And when you think about that, it's so true. For things that you give no care about, you don't give two hoots, you don't hold an energy of stress. And yet when we care is when stress rises and the emotions are heightened, and we can become so full of our emotional energy, and it's learning and it's training and it's toning. That's why I call what I do emotional fitness, because we're training the nervous system to be able to be with that emotion in its intensity and still be able to show up in a way that we're proud of, still be able to communicate from a grounded place, from a place of love and compassion, in a way that is how we are proud to be received. Maya Angelou talks about that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that, for me, is like the epitome of using your energy for impact. Every interaction that you get to have, every experience, and every way in which you get to show and share who you are in this world, when you can do it from a place of alignment and groundedness and love and pride in who and how you are showing up, it's such a beautiful feeling. Like, it's such a fulfillment of the joy of being alive, and it's a reflection of the gratitude you have for getting to be here in the here and now. And This is such a meaningful thing for me. It's like I've been going through this big circling, and everything I'm doing with Energy for Impact really got put to the side as I was birthing my friend Breath. I'm like, EFI was my first business baby. She's been playing over in the corner with her toys, being very patient for me. Like, I ran an online emotional fitness gym for a year. We had 6 instructors. We were doing all these different modalities to support people with processing and strengthening their emotional fitness. And then all of that got put on pause to allow my friend Breath to come through. And the beauty of it, Janelle, is that they're so complementary. They're so intertwined. It's let's help the kids. Let's help the adults.
Wow.
Let's all come to this place of love and compassion and kindness towards ourselves for being humans with emotions, and learn how we can nurture and support ourselves so that we can show up in a way we're proud of. It's divine. And I'm so immensely grateful to get to share it and talk about it with you. It's an aliveness that is I'm finding is wanting to flow through me even more. So with the opportunity and the invitation to come on here and get to plant seeds, you mentioned that the beautiful people who choose to tune in and listen to this, we're planting seeds in their minds right now about what is possible. Because EFT tapping is the emotional freedom techniques. Emotional freedom. So many people believe that the trauma that they've been through defines them for who they are for the rest of their life. And we're here to show, and this is the demonstration of you can take that, you can release its hold, take what serves you from it, and grow and expand and blossom and bloom from there. And it's so, so, so beautiful. And I know that you are an example of that as well, of on your journey. And that's why, when we met and you shared it with me, I was just I had goosebumps thinking back to that night lying out by the pool under the stars, hearing people go through such incredibly emotionally challenging times in their lives, and they come out the other side. And that's the beauty of getting to share it and inspire others that it is possible for them too.
That brings me to a thought as I was sitting here just taking all of this in and knowing what you know now, your knowing heart to what Kelsey, 12-year-old Kelsey, coming into this space and not knowing. If you were to tell 12-year-old Kelsey something today, maybe there's other 12-year-olds out there that are listening, or they're 15-year-olds or 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds that are going through something similar to this. What would be the one thing that you would tell yourself that you think would be important for others to hear about themselves too in this similar season?
That is a really beautiful invitation. And there are a lot of voices going on inside because there are a lot of powerful things. So it's just as tapping is a really great way to help to create, I guess, spaciousness, and almost I'm picturing the clouds parting and the one thing to come through as I tune into this now. And yeah, it pertains and connects with our inner voice, and the recognition that inner voice is something that is being developed from the moment we are born, right? And the language becomes part of our lives, and the way in which we learn about who and how we are to be in this world. And we take so much meaning from externally. And this is, kids don't have the ability to discern. They don't have the ability to rationalize. They take everything at face value. They are sponges. So this is going to be a two-parter, because it's both for everybody to take in and then to realize that the impact we have on each other. So in terms of nurturing and recognizing your responsibility, that your inner voice is something that you get to choose. How are you speaking to yourself? So rather than leaning into the idea of blaming and shaming yourself about being an emotional person, right? Like, and I guess I'm talking to everybody, even empaths, we might be a little more heightened, highly sensitive to the energy and the emotion, but everybody has emotions. And so it's about like coming to this place of kindness and compassion for yourself for having emotions and giving them permission, because an emotion will, when acknowledged and accepted and allowed to be, it will come to you and move through you with ease. Often it's a part of you wanting to recognize something. It's something it wants to tell you, wants to inform you in some way. You feel that way because you say, oh, okay, thank you, and then allow it to go through you. And it's valid for that part. You don't have to attach to it always, but it's valid for that part. When we resist it and we push against it, that's when it stays there. And it's like, no, I need to deliver this message to you.
Yeah.
So the more that we can come into attunement with allowing the energetic flow of emotion and giving ourselves permission to be with it and just be kind to ourselves in that whole process of being a human, I truly believe that the more that we're kind to ourselves, the easier it is for us to be kind outwardly as well, right? Like that energy flows to and through us and is how we show up in the world. And so the flip side of that is recognizing when you may be projecting energy, when you may be, and is recognizing the impact that you, your energetic state, your words have on other people. When we are in dysregulated states, we can say and do things that we later regret. Everybody has been guilty of that. And so the power of, like an example, my partner and I, we use tapping together whenever we are having a conversation that may be a little challenging and may cause our emotions to heighten and may lead us towards dysregulation. And we are both comfortable to the point of saying, I need to pause here. I can feel myself moving into dysregulation and I don't want to talk with you from that place because that is not how I want to show up. So let's take a few breaths together. I'm going to go and take 5 minutes to ground and come back and release the charge of this. Talk about the charge of the energy, like allow it to come back down into a state that can be shared in a calm, connected, loving, compassionate way. So that is, and we, we talked about the responsibility piece, like that is so key and core. In any session that I guide, like especially in group sessions, I say, thank you so much for choosing to be here and support yourself in the way that only you can. Because we are the only ones that can influence ourselves and impact ourselves in this way. We have to be a conscious participant in the process. And it comes from the practice of it. It comes from practicing it on your own, practicing it in relationship, integrating it into your life. I talk about, with all of these different tools and approaches and practices, talk about using them with love and applying them in your life with love. And love standing for in a little, often, varied, and enjoyable way. Because when we lean in and we meditate for 5 minutes a day and we, integrate it, we might do a meditation in the morning, we might do some tapping as we transition at the end of our day into our evening. Like when we repeat these things often, when we use a variety of tools, journaling might support you in one moment, whereas going for a walk or doing some physical exercise might be what the energy needs in another moment to help it shift. Like using a variety of tools, whatever works for you at the time, and doing the things that you enjoy. They've actually done a study with physical fitness, so I believe it applies for emotional fitness too, that if you do physical fitness and activity that you don't enjoy, it has a negative impact on your system. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So for people who go, oh, I don't enjoy lying down in a sound healing. It's too passive for me. Okay, then don't do that. That's not your system isn't going to relax into the state to receive the
Right.
healing from that. You might be better off doing something
Mm-hmm.
more active and engaging, right? Doing an ecstatic dance and allow the energy to move through you in that way. So really, like, I offer that to everybody listening, like,
Mm-hmm.
do a bit of an audit of the different tools and approaches and practices that maybe you already have in your life or that you're interested to try integrating into your life in a little, often varied and enjoyable way to support yourself so that you can show up as who and how you're proud to be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that is, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of our days, if we get the joy and the pleasure of being aware of when we are going to be leaving this earthly realm, to be able to sit back and reflect and say, yeah, I'm proud of who I've been. That to me is the success of life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oof, thank you
Hmm.
so much for that question.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here, Kelsey. I really appreciate like yeah, just the unfolding and letting it just kind of like we said, just like flow like honey. Um, I love that you've been able to share so many different aspects and also just like really the beautiful journey of discovering the things that have helped you. And I think it's good what you said too, like find the thing that helps you, whether it's going for a run or it's maybe you love to swim or maybe it's like journaling or maybe it's just walking and maybe whatever it might be, maybe it is tapping, but find the thing that brings you to a place where you can find some healing and some growth. It just looks so differently for everybody and it's really finding the thing and not being too shy to go into a place where you don't know everybody and they're tapping and you're like what is going on but to put yourself into a place sometimes where it maybe feels uncomfortable or new to you and like oh okay what is this and diving into that. Before we close, I have one last question for you, which
Yes,
I always love
let's
asking because
do
I feel
it.
like it could be anything. In the season of your life, maybe it's one of the things you mentioned, but what is something that you find is bringing you immense joy to your life?
Mm. Oh, I know, instantly, instantly, instantly. Something that's bringing me immense joy right here, right now, is the very intentional relationship building that I am doing with my sisters and my nibblings. So, as I mentioned, I've been out of Australia for 10 years now. I was in Canada for 8. I've been or nearly 8. I've been down here for 2.5. So it's been quite the journey. And I haven't actually been back to Australia or seen any of my family in person in over 5 years. And as of right now, Janelle, we are only 6 sleeps away from my mum coming to visit me here in Nicaragua. So we
Oh
have
my
done this
gosh.
whole book project completely remotely. We've got an incredible team.
Wow.
We're all in different places around the world, and just having the ability to be in person with my mum is going to be absolutely magical. And then I will be home for Christmas this year. I will be back in Oz for a beautiful, sunny, hot Aussie Christmas. And so
Oh.
I'm recognizing and realizing that I've been missing some of the most incredible years of being in person with my nibblings. Like, the eldest is about to turn 5, right down there between ages between 1 and 5. And so I set the intention with my sisters of, like, it's really important to me that even though I'm virtual right now, that we cultivate this relationship such that when I arrive, it feels very natural and easy to integrate together. And so
Mm.
what that's looked like in our busy lives, in living in different time zones, is that we found a date every second week, so bi-weekly or fortnightly, depending on where you are in the world and how you frame that. We jump on a FaceTime call and we get to chat. And like, just last night, I got to have the one with my sister with the 2 nieces, and we had such a beautiful
Mm.
conversation. And I can really feel that
Aw.
even just the energy that I'm bringing, as well as this recognition and this joy that I get to be in these kids' lives for their whole lifetime. Like, it is
Mm.
remarkable to get to be the aunt and the friend. And this is the exact energy I brought to you and your gorgeous, gorgeous humans when I met you. Like, I really have such a strong connection with getting to be this friend role and this aunt energy in the lives of many kids in this world, and particularly my own blood and flesh nibblings. So having this time, cultivating this time, making it really special, I just know that once my feet are on the ground there and I get to be like, it's going to help make it even more impactful and joyful. And, we take little screenshots together, and it's those moments that are really filling my cup and bringing me immense joy. And knowing to, having it to look forward to. I find like travel is in my blood. I absolutely adore traveling, and knowing that you have a trip coming, knowing that you've got time to be out there in the world and adventuring and connecting is that's the anticipation of it is as much fun as the actual execution. So that's a really special thing. And we talk about when Auntie Kels comes to visit, when I'm doing this. So it's really, really, that's really special. So thank you for asking that question. Like, that's just gorgeous. Yeah.
I can see that bringing you tons of joy. It's just like, as you talk about it, you're just lit up like a sunshine. I love it. So beautiful. Oh, well, thank you, Kels, so much for being here and for taking the time and for messaging me and being like, I think I'm ready to share my story. And I just really appreciate it. And I know that the community of people who are here listening will also appreciate it. And people know that you're not alone, whatever you're going through this season in your life, whether you're navigating, your family transitioning changes, know that you're not alone. Kelsey's been through it, and she's taken what she's gone through and turned into this beautiful bloom. That's just I feel like it's just, you're just you're like the bloom of many colors, and you've taken your story and it's just evolved into something really radiant and beautiful. So thank you so much again for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It means so much to me. I'm super, super grateful for this time with you. Yeah. Sending you a giant hug from Scotland.
Such big hugs. I want to share one last little note there, hearing you reference the bloom. My family, my great grandmother has a saying that has been passed down through our family, and it's that bloom wherever you're planted. And as someone who has been moving and had multiple places in which I get to visit and share my energy for impact, it's like, it is that really beautiful of like, you're here, how can you spread? How can you express? How can you share? How can you bloom from this place? So I invite everybody to tune into how they can bloom wherever they're planted, in whatever situation. What joy and brightness and love and energy can you shine? Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This has been an incredible experience to get to tune in and share and connect. And thank you with immense gratitude to those who chose to tune in and listen. And may you take what serves you from this and allow the seeds to be planted, and lean into your own intuition and trust and explore and be open and curious to the many different ways that you can support yourself in this lifetime to show up in a way that you're proud of. Yeah. Take good care.
It's beautiful. Amazing. All right. Sending so much hugs to all you out there. Love you. Ciao. Thank you again. Let's Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcast goodness. This way you'll never miss out on any future episodes, plus it really helps us. And if you want to share your favorite episode with a friend, that would be absolutely incredible. This goes a long way. If you'd like to join Naked by sharing part of your story, just leave us a message on Instagram or email us at nakedwithjanelle@gmail.com. Also, a big thanks to my son, Mikkel, who is the best cheerleader and maybe one of the biggest believers in Naked, and also produces and edits all our podcasts. I am beyond grateful for him and very aware that I couldn't do this on my own. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here.